Last Wednesday, the 13th of May 2009, and that's the second day the baby Sparrow's been brought to get fed. So that's all going on. They sure do get in the hang of it quick. That's grubby, that. They still do feed them till they get the hang of it. But the little babies are so used to being just fed that they are quick. And they like to look around. Well, I rang Jeff Parry on Monday and asked, well, how come there's been no intervention so far? Given what I asked, or the public question that was refused me initially about the criminal negligence, and it's remarkable that there's been no direct involvement by anybody. You know, watching them doing that is kind of worth putting up with the bullshit. You're the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition crapping on about doing the right thing. Well, they won't redesignate these properties shared houses. They like to make out that they're so-called flats. They're goddamn shared houses. And all it is that poor people are getting ripped off. Most of them on minimum wages. So there we go. Life in the fast lane. Stuff just coming on. Look at that. Seems like the waste stuff's holding the cement up, which is good. Get a light on it. But government really is looking after itself and not really looking after other people. And the garden is coming into bloom. Which is great. But there really ought to be something about, you know, real kind of like, you think they would have got a social worker on the case regardless of me, you know, not wanting to have to go to any mental health team's place. Why should I have to, you know, do that? I really don't like those people. Don't trust them one moment. They all seem like really self-satisfied assholes to me. People I wouldn't bother with generally in my day-to-day life. Who got a countenance to say whether I should have or shouldn't have somebody. You know? Well, what the fuck do they know? They're not me, are they? You know, if I'd been able to get out of here, don't you think I'd have done it by now? But I haven't got the finance to do that, and I like having security of tenure, thank you very much. I don't want to be in the private sector where, you know, you haven't got that. And there's enough money swishing around here, there and everywhere for everybody else, isn't there? And here's another question for you all now. I've had a look at the accounts now that the General Fund has got the rent rebates, and they're doing depreciation of 30 million. Excuse me, Chief Constable? Depreciation of 30 million? Is that going to be the next thing? I mean, when they've depreciated it down to zero, what are they going to do then? And if they had sold it to a housing association all those years ago when I first started raising the issue about the rent revenue account, sold it to them for £1, there's no way that they could ever have had depreciation on their accounts, because they would have bought it for £1 and that would have been it, and everything else would have been a bonus, and everybody moving into a property knew that they would have no right to buy, because 80% of housing association tenants in receipt of housing benefit. So Mr. Cameron is misleading everybody that he wants to do the right thing. Gordon Brown's misleading everybody that he wants to do the right thing, because nobody's investigating this Cardiff County Council and its rent revenue account. And it's what's been going on with this 30 million in rent rebates, you know, and how the hell are they still showing it when it's central government that pays it and they just administrate it? I can understand them having, 30 odd grand for staffing costs for the administrating of it or whatever, but not 30 million every year. So yeah, and you don't hear the BBC talking about challenging the water companies stand in charge, or having roof water collection systems in for those who are on metering or, in dire financial straits. Do you? Sustainable water. They love that in the east of England, wouldn't they? Or the southeast of England, eh? Because they're going to all get ripped off when they all start having meters and standing water charge, because it don't hardly ever rain there. Eh? Amazing. So that's today's event, and still got the lodgers, and that's a piss off, because nobody understands what it's like to live on the ground floor when there's shit sound insulation. And if the tenant above was really honest, he'd say that my day-to-day activity pisses him off, because that's what I asked Mr. Jeff Parry, or told Mr. Jeff Parry that if he was honest, he would agree that that's the case. But still, garden's getting watered, free from the clouds. Is there any point in blogging? Is there any point in sending this to all the usual suspects? Is there any point in it? Equality Human Rights Commission, they've all gone silent since I sent them the last blog, hand delivered, video on YouTube. Total silence. I've sent an email to the IPCC's internal investigation complaints. Not had a response. That's wrong. The IPCC ought to be looking into PC Haynes' perjury of evidence given to the court, allowed for by his chief officer. But oh no, it's Crazy Dave. Fuck him. He ain't got no rights. That's wrong, Mr. Brown. Whatever way you cut the mustard, that's corruption, and it's rife in Wales. It's rife in Westminster. Whatever way you cut the mustard. And you people in the UK, you want to get real with these people. You really ought to get real. So I've applied for an electoral register form. Ooh, I've got it today. I'm going to post it an hour later. I expect they'll tell me, oh, you're not allowed to vote at the European elections, Crazy Dave. Or maybe I will, because I'd like to shoot a no-tar video for that one. Going into the polling booth, no tar, none of the above, because not one of the European MPs for Wales ever taken a dicky bird interest in any stuff that I ever sent them, and they know about my blog site, because they're part of the usual suspects as well. But I guess I'll be ignored about this video, the same as I've been ignored about all the other ones, because I don't see any change. Don't see, you have a question refused, claiming criminal negligence, and that was in January. It's now May, and as far as I'm concerned, nobody's taken a blind bit of interest. Excuse me? Not a blind bit of interest? But that's social care in Wales in 2009, Dave, ain't it? Social care? There ain't no social care in Wales for this human being. There haven't been any with the Social Services Inspectorate, and I call them the Social Services Protectorate, because that's all they've been doing as far as Cardiff County Council, the Welsh Assembly are concerned. Haven't you, whoever's in charge of that organisation? You ought to be sacked and a bullet in your brain. Because you're taking money under false pretences. Same as Michael Murphy's taking money out of false pretences for being in adult services in Cardiff County Council. Same as the chief executive of Cardiff County Council ought to be put in prison for his criminal negligence to the tenants of his, friggin' amazing what they get away with, Crazy Dave. It's friggin' amazing. And he's on more money than the government. Oh, and I checked out Countess yesterday in her expenses claim form. She spends 100 days in the House of Lords, and she's claiming over 26 grand. And if you equate that to day income, it's 245 quid every time she turns up there. And she got the audacity to tell me she's doing unpaid work. I sure as fuck wouldn't mind a 245 quid a day job if I had him. For a third of the year. Keep me in a style that I've not been accustomed to for God knows how long. Wouldn't it now, Countess Ma? And you're not being paid and you're not earning a living? 245 quid a day? Tell that to all the people who are on minimum wage, Countess Ma, that you're not being paid an income. And I expect she's one of the cheapest ones. And